I'm sorry.
And we're live. Welcome to the Ask Janny show. It took a long time for us to actually get on live. Hopefully, everybody can see us. Yes?
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so, because then we'll be really talking to ourselves. I just want to make sure. Yes? Can you can see both ends? So, well, welcome. Everyone here from Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. It's always a great pleasure to be always a great pleasure to be able to chat with my dear friend Chantal. And today we're going to dig deep, I guess, into my own personal life and uh, kind of just journey what this journey has been for me as a student of the women's school. So wherever you are, if you are just tuning in for the first time, this is where we go deep into the story of uh, women's daily lives. And then also they get to ask me a question about my own daily life and what this journey looks like a lot to me as an entrepreneur and also as a mom of 8. So let's dive right in.
That's wonderful. Well, first of all, I know we had a chance to connect not too long ago on the Ask Janny Live as we were launching it, debuting you and debuting this offer. And so it's fun to be back so soon. One of the reasons is that I just wanted to really help uncover this other dimension of you, because I think a lot of women know you uh, as the woman school. Really, that's who you are. That's been your vision and your dream. But behind it, there was a big tug of war for a long time in your heart about how to actually reach women and having to embrace a business mindset, which is not what you necessarily ever thought you would be doing. So I think it's really fun for us to explore this a little bit more. And as a fellow momtrepreneur, if you will, I know the wrestle well. So let's dive in a little bit. Take us back uh, to when you were first dreaming about the school and when you were envisioning that there was going to be a school for women and the conundrum that presented to you in the sense of having to face business.
Oh, well, it never crossed my mind. Business to me was a place that I was just afraid of because I just automatically believed or assumed that business would not make me fulfilled. It would not make me the kind of mom wife that I deeply desired to be. There was a automatic assumption that it was in conflict with my deepest desires of my heart. So I never even want to touch about the 10-foot pole. The desire to build a school for women was going to be a nonprofit. I looked at the nonprofit. I wanted to see how we could uh, build conferences for women, but building a business was foreign language. It was just foreign. Like, it just was never in my heart or in my mind. I in college, we started this group called Woman to Woman, where we would go to college, and we would do human formation, aka training women. Some of these things that I'm very micro, the skills that you're learning in the women's school. And we thought about it as a 501c3. It was a nonprofit. So long, kind of, uh, all of my single years, I just did it for free, and I was always so passionate about it. And so finally, I got into this book called The Millionaire Messenger by Brendan Burchard, and the thing that was beautiful, I think, in the marriage that Ryan and I have was that whatever his book he was reading, I would read it right alongside him, even though I had nothing to do with me. Like when he had Tony Robbins books or any kind of business book, I would just read it and he would always seek my counsel. So I felt as though it was important for me to study. And so study was always part or became part of my life, I think, because that was part of my routine in college was to study. So I it just became prayer and study. And so I started studying Ryan's business books, and I think a seed was planted that um, the fastest way to actually influence culture was through business.
Hmm.
But I
Interesting.
never actually wanted to entertain it, to be honest. Like I just thought, okay, I heard people say that. I heard all the business gurus that Ryan was listening to. And I thought, well, it's not relevant to me. And then I remember, he would read book like Sell or Be Sold because he was a really great in sales and was great in business. And I would always translate it to motherhood. I thought, sell or be sold in real estate. I'm like, every mother needs to learn to sell. Or otherwise, you're going to be sold on your child not doing your homework. Everything went back to me to the training on how to be a woman every single time I read this business book. So, anyways, I read the Brendan Burchard message, and it basically said if you have a message, you are culpable for it. And you can build a business around it for the purpose of reaching more people. And that was foreign language to me. I thought, and so I tried it. I tried. I started studying everything that Ryan had and business books and failed so badly. Like invested so much money. And I was pregnant with number five. I would get up at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, study all these business books. I had written all these landing pages, webinars. I had learned this book about it's called $100 million webinar. And my purpose was, oh, why don't I learn how to build a webinar so that women would want to invest in their own formation training? I must have written that 1,000 times. And it went nowhere. I tried everything. It was like, and everything was in the quiet. And I remember Angela would always say, Jen, it's like being pregnant. Nobody knows you're pregnant, but there's a life inside of you. I'm like, okay, Ange. I was just, I didn't really necessarily believe it. I still remember my friend Ashley, she said, well, Jen, then maybe it's being an entrepreneur for you. I could not say that word, Chantal, not because I couldn't spell it. It was so vulnerable. I'm like, whoa. I just thought that was so ridiculous that I would do that. I'm like, so it took me like a year to learn to say that and own it. Anyways, my husband, which is the biggest believer in this work, because he would see my passion in training women, really funded so much of this hobby of I would have conferences. And then Ryan said, January, if you want to reach millions, do you want to reach thousands or millions? And I thought, obviously millions. Like I was so passionate about it. It got me up in the morning. I didn't need motivation.
Yeah.
I was doing nothing. I was motivated because I was a student of this own work. And so then you have to build a business around it. Um, and so I tried and failed, lost so much money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars hiring somebody, learning. I remember I invested in like a $14,000 video for the day. I froze, couldn't get
Oh,
1 minute in. And it literally was $13,000 down to drain of Ryan's hard earned money because he believed in it. And I threw up. But I'm sorry, I barfed at night. It was so anyways, I thought I'm done. Like, and I did that all right alongside having sort of babies after babies. So that was my journey. And then it was a slow move to saying, oh, I see it. When women pay, they pay attention. And then finally, Ryan, I said, I wanted nothing to do with it. I'm like, I wanted nothing to do with women. Like I couldn't build a business. I wanted nothing to do with women. And so I would read other business books. I'd be like, maybe I'll build a something outside of woman. And everything would come back to woman. Everything would come back. It was, you know, uh, so I think that's where my journey was and just owning that call and saying the
it's a
fastest way.
purification. It's a purification. Wouldn't you say? I think one of my favorite phrases in this space is it takes 10 years to be an overnight
Yeah.
success,
Yeah.
right?
That's really
This
what I
labor
mean.
of love behind the scenes, the detachment that's required, the facing the feelings of embarrassment of being, I mean, these are all terms that entrepreneurs know too well, I think, and we have to work with them continually to face imposter syndrome. I'm not enough. How do I do this? How do I invest and fail and fail and fail,
Mhm.
believing that the mission is worth it? um, I love that imagery that you give of just how painful it was, because I think if somebody met you today, they would just assume, this was, just handed to you, and that you just kind of had this great call and vision, and they're just stepping into this 10, 15 years later.
Yeah. I remember people would say that to me, like, Jen, you're just lucky. And I remember thinking, I just would always sort of kind of resist it. I'm like, lucky, like, I get up so early. I sleep in late. I work hard. I don't like, I'm like, lucky. Like, you don't, I just don't think it was ever really luck. And I think it was grace. That's for sure. Uh, but I think the dream was so big that it kept pulling me in spite the failures that I had. I lived for the dream. The dream is crystal clear and hasn't changed. And that's just one thing that it just took a form in a business, but the dream was clear is to build a school where every woman can go to and get access to formation. Like,
Mm.
I don't think that's like, that's been inside of me since I was in college. I can't explain it. And the other thing that was always inside of me was that there's a warrior part of this work. Like, I always felt it was a battle, and I just didn't really know how it was gonna come to fruition. And the
So
other
now,
thing,
go ahead.
no,
Keep
actually,
going.
the other thing that really in my failures, the hardest part was the critics. Like, I was loved in college, and I think that was a great gift. But to fulfill God's call, I was love what I mean by that. I had a lot of friends. Somebody, I went to a really great school, and everybody loved everyone. So it wasn't just me love. But then I stepped into God's call, and I was like, oh, everyone else sort of that I felt close to me. It wasn't that they turned their back on me, they didn't believe in me. And that crucified me like you would not believe. Like, I can cry those tears again. That's the hardest part. I'm like, any work, I got it. Like, I can fail, get back up again. But when I get criticized, I would just melt. And I think at one point I realized, and maybe it was my sister, he said, because you have collapsed like with love.
Mm.
I was my own student, is that being liked felt like it was being loved all the way back to what we teach in the home school, the poisonous piece. So, and the second thing that the healing part to me was that to be a great mother and wife, you would have to abandon any kind of call outside your home.
Mm.
And it just wasn't the call for me. I felt like God kept pushing me. And so my own formation was, how do I do that in a way that doesn't compromise my need to be a mother, but more importantly, even a wife?
Mm.
So that has become a healing for me, because I feel like the entrepreneur space for me and owning my call has actually made me a better mom and a better wife, more than I could ever been if I had not. I've sort of just sat and comfortably. Um,
Yes, I
so yeah,
concur. That's I think that's one of the things that many of the women in the school begin to find as they come in pursuit of practical life skills, and they come looking for renewal and restoration of their sense of worth and their ability to manage their homes. All of a sudden, there's a deeper surging of their heart that says, I have to contribute.
yeah,
And not for all of them, right? Many of them, their home is their place of contribution in a very full and vibrant way. But many of the women start to say, what is this longing that I have to
yeah,
serve? And the challenge that we have, especially since I get to be on the side of helping to form our coaches, is helping them to identify that a call without action and a call without a plan and a call without skills just results in a very frustrated state of
yeah,
being. And so business is as much about, yes, successfully delivering a product or successfully bringing a message to market, but more than that, it's the becoming of a much higher level of yourself. And it shows up in, like you said, with your children, the way that you conduct your life, your ability to stay on point. Because what I love about business is you cannot hide behind it.
the
It
results.
is,
Yeah,
if you are failing, it shows you. And if you are succeeding, it rewards you. And in that sense, it's a purification of our spirituality and of our mindset on a much higher plane than even the fundamental skills that we teach in the school. So it
oh
just
yeah.
almost seems like a natural progression for many women into this entrepreneurial space.
I think it forces you to a life of excellence. That's what I realize entrepreneurship is, because you can't hide behind your own lack of formation. Even somebody who's sitting here and you are living your woman of faith, it's easy to hide your lack of formation as a woman, your lack of it's easy to be comfortable, because the results doesn't always, it's not as palpable. Or if you're an entrepreneur, you kind of have to see the results, and you have to see the metric, and you have to kind of see, oh, this is a direct response to my lack of leadership skills, or my lack of ability to actually build a better routine, or say no to myself. I mean, it's just it's a cause and effect. And so the more I live my life in a very excellent way, the more it shows up actually in business. And I will just say this, I think, for those out you, um, the biggest byproduct, I'll read this because I think it's important, of me being an entrepreneur is actually how I have indirectly modeled for my children fulfilling your dreams. Because when in the women's school, I always say you can't tell them to pursue your dreams unless you're walking it. You really have to model what that looks, feels, and acts like on a daily basis. And to me, that is the greatest reward because they get to witness my failure, my hard work, my tenacity, my low moments, my high moments, and then they realize, oh, that's actually the journey.
Mhm.
Like that is, and I'll read this to you because I could have never taught this to my child, even if I wanted to. And I'll share this. This is Jack Ryan's Mother's Day gift. I mean, Mother's Day note to me. And he said, Happy Mother's Day to the most incredible mom ever. Your hard work and dedication never go unnoticed. See, I just don't even think he notices, he has a dream to fulfill, and I just know I can't tell him to do that. And he says, "Every day you inspire me with your hard work and compassion. Thank you for all your sacrifices you make and for the unwavering love you provide. I am grateful for everything you do, and I hope that you have the best day ever that you deserve. You're the best. You're not just my mom; you're my hero. Love you more than words can express." That's my 16-year-old son, and I'll tell you where that comes from. It's the dream. I could not tell him to say, Jack Ryan, follow your dream. It's okay to fail. Get right back up. He gets to watch me do that on a daily basis. To me, if my own fulfillment of my call become the catalyst to him fulfilling his golf dream, then that's how, to me, the greatest gift of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. So I want you to take us into some of the dark moments, not so much to divulge or go dark, but I know there's a lot of people listening who think my life is too full, my marriage is too painful, we don't have enough money for the dream, my kids are not speaking to me the way yours just did. Or perhaps they've even ventured into entrepreneurship and every 3 days they just feel like quitting because they forget just the call, or the call isn't rooted deep enough, or I don't even know. I think being an entrepreneur, a lot of times we wake up and we simply are fatigued with having to be our own boss, right? We have zero accountability outside of us unless we put it there, because we are the ones directing the course of our business. And so yes, we know we have to instill those things, but I think let's just go in there. What would you say? What would you say to someone, and kind of drawing from what you have endured, that would help a fellow entrepreneur
Um,
want to keep going?
the first thing that came to my mind was that I remember I'd never made a dime in my life because I was a stay-at-home mom, and Ryan, made a lot of money, and we had moved to Florida because that was part of the dream. And so I there was no extra resource because he took a successful geographically based business and kind of put all our eggs in basket to fulfill this dream to be in Florida. And so if I were going to do something with women, I had to make their own money. And I was like, how do I make money? I don't. So anyways, I took out a loan for myself. No, I mean, I didn't know how it would pay it off. It
Yeah,
would put
high
our,
risk.
it would put all our money and all our family at risk. And I put it, I remember, on my own name, and I hired a coach, and I hired a coach for $20,000. Like it was just like, it was ridiculous. Like, and that put me in a financial kind of really conundrum where I had to make money. So that everything that my coach said, I did it, including all the tech skills, which, me, you would say January, like I was so fierce. I'm like, I am going to make use of every penny. So that, and there's so much uncertainty when you go into our Lord's will. And I think the only thing I can say is that I just prayed my way through it and worked my way through it with every fiber of my being. And I didn't, there was never a guaranteed of results, there was only a guarantee that I was going to be a changed woman because of what I put into it. That was the only guarantee. So, and then when we even started with the women's school, and Ryan's like, okay, great. I'm putting my eggs on all the Janny basket. Like literally, Ryan sold his business to jump into the new woman masterclass. I mean, to jump into this women's school dream that I've had, which was ridiculous if you really look back. Dad of six, no income, sold his business. We would live off our savings, our income, which we didn't make money, I think, for a year or two. I can't remember roughly. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, we read every single book about mindset. We like got on our knees together, but we worked together. Hard conversation in our marriage. Ryan and I have a really incredible marriage, but when you have to wrestle with certain things, like you have to wrestle with a lot of hard conversation. So those were the things that, I get pregnant. I'm like putting all our eggs in baskets. And Ryan just like sold his business. We had like, 2 years to sort of kind of like, how do we do this, live? And I get pregnant. And I'm like, is this a joke, our Lord? I mean, we're obviously open to life, but I was like, well, somehow.
Here
And
we
so there were no excuses. I had to produce. I couldn't say, well, I'm tired, I'm pregnant. It's like, you're tired, you make it an offering and you get up at 4 in the morning.
go.
Any aches and pains, you eat well so that you don't have aches and pains. You don't junk on those food so that you can teach. So those are, and it's like learning how to find joy in those little things. It's like, okay, I'm sitting through the masterclass. If you were in 1.0, I am teaching and I'm creating this course and I'm extremely uncomfortable. But you don't even think about I was managing my mind the whole time. And then you have the baby and you're like, okay, I launched the school in January. I get pregnant. I get a baby in August. I had a baby in August. So it was nursing all through, and I'm like, I have to put this baby to 12 weeks, 12 hours to sleep. I did that while simultaneously the coaching school was launched. Like, and that's the thing that people, oh, it wasn't like a walk in the park. I just knew this was the cards that were dealt. I need to figure out a solution. And then I needed to figure out how to do it in joy and peace. Like I would not, I don't give myself permission to complain about it. And if I did, I'd be like, Ryan, 1 minute permission to complain and then figure it out. So, and there were moments where I didn't have help at home. Like I've lived in full-time help, but there were moments where I didn't have live-in help for 6 months at a time. So somehow you make it work. And you really have to be a woman of faith, I think, to believe that you make it work. I think the one thing that if I were to have a superpower, which I don't really have any superpower, but if that language resonates with other women, I just had a belief
Mhm.
in, I believed so much in women and why they're suffering. I believed so much in the vision of the women's school, and I believed so much our Lord was asking me. And that keeps me going and growing. When I say going, get up in the morning, reading the right books. It kept my life really simple. Like I'm a recluse where I don't like my children is my primary, and then I study. Like there's no time to squander for me.
Mm.
Um so yeah, I think that's it. And then on top of that, it's like I have to make sure I'm forming my children.
Mhm.
Like I can't just teach women and I needed to make sure I was having the right conversation. What gets sacrificed, I think, is my sleep and my health, which I teach women to, get enough sleep. And I'm just being really transparent because I would go with 6 hours of sleep, sometimes 5 hours of sleep, and I was mentally fine, but I think my body would say, "Ooh, January."
Yeah. So you'd have to have seasons to recuperate and still do. I know you now well enough, having worked with you for the last 3 years,
Yeah,
that there's times when I have to be like, hey Jan, go on
yeah,
a cruise. You
yeah.
need
I
a break.
should do that. Yeah, it takes a lot. I think it takes almost our Lord to kind of like stop me,
Yeah.
a friend or something. And it's not because I don't want to. It's just because I just know Ryan's like January is one speed. You
Mhm.
know,
Well,
the
and I've
hardest
watched
part.
you. I've watched you through seasons where you've said, okay, I need accountability on what I eat. I need
Yeah,
accountability on how much I'm drinking. Like there are drinking as in water just to clarify. Um, and I do see that you end up reverting in those most challenging seasons to the core skills that you teach
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
And without those core skills, managing your mind, managing your routine, working and focusing on your scripts, I mean, you are a walking testimony of the value of scripting, because again, I've been around you long enough to know this isn't something that you just talk about. I hear it continually. We have what we call Januaryisms in the school, and they're your scripts. They're your totally irreplaceable, personalized scripts that help bridge that gap between those moments of fatigue or doubt and back into that place of fortified belief. And it is a really beautiful work to watch you go through. And even just the managing of critics in business, you cannot please everyone all the time.
Mhm.
You cannot please all the students, all the coaches, all the friends, the marketplace. I know for a fact you have gone through so many roller coasters with that, and yet here you are, still standing and still persevering. And I think it's really beautiful, and it's beautiful because there's many women who have begun to identify themselves with you in that space and saying, "Wow." Rather than seeing you as kind of this woman on a pedestal, they see you as a woman in the trenches with them.
Mhm.
And I think that's really beautiful. It's
Yeah.
necessary. It's necessary for the success that they see you that way.
Yeah, I never aspire for the pedestal. It's not even I am what I mean by that is that I actually really love my quiet and simple life if I could. I'm sort of not forced to, but I have to have a public life. But what I go back to, Chantal, is that I have a deep gratitude for what God has given me in my life on a daily basis, the joy that I have in my own marriage and my home, that I cannot not show up. At the
Mhm.
end of the day, I feel indebted. Like women should wake up with a sense of peace and full of life. I think that is what God designed us to be. And the fact that there isn't, that motivates me, and here's the thing is that I think it's modern day sacrifice. And what I mean by that, it's we have to be counterculture in a sense that the martyrdom that we are called to looks a lot like formation, looks like the daily discipline of a life of excellence and perseverance and fighting against a culture that tells you hot mess mama is the way to do it. Fighting against a culture that says, well, let me just be comfortable in my own little cocoon. And so I think that's the reward, is that you get to walk into the greatness that God sees in all of us, which is what we're called to. And I think that's a sweet reward that I think we're all privileged to.
Mm, it's really beautiful. Well, I know there are women who are listening who are in their own trenches and their own seasons of the forbidden word in the school, seasons of overwhelm. And sometimes we do have to acknowledge those, but not, like you said, to not dwell on them, to not use them as an excuse, to not look out and go, oh, she's successful because of X, Y, or Z, but rather turn to that examine of ourselves, which says, what skills am I lacking? And how can I keep going
Yeah.
forward, ever upward? And that's, I think that's the beauty of this. In the end, I think a lot of times people say, what is it that you're about? And it's simply giving women that capacity to keep scaling their life
Mhm.
rather than settling. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. And I've watched that. So I just wanted to pull the curtain back for all of you today and just let you in on a little bit of January the entrepreneur, who has seen so many seasons of challenge and is right there with those of you that are in the struggle as well.
Like Rock waking up at 3 in the morning, barfing last night.
Oh, and here you are. And here you are.
Well, I just, that's the dance for me. It's that, you know, I need to always constantly reflect on my priority in spite so many demands of me outside. I think that's a constant surrender. And that's a constant discernment. And it's a constant, okay, how can I make this work today? Where I'm prioritizing my call to be a mother. And then I'm here. So it's a real, that's the strategy. It's like, um, I think that's the divine adventure.
Mm.
And it's full of sacrifices.
Well, it is full of sacrifices. And the last little phrase that I'll leave those of you that are contemplating whether or not entrepreneurship is a call in your own heart, whether it's with us or in your own sphere, is that real genuine prompt, which is, if you don't have a dream, someone else will use you for theirs.
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Ooh, yeah, soul stirring, because in the end, we are handed a call. And if your home life is your call, then how do you live it to the maximum? If you are called into the workforce, how do you live that without compromising your life? If you are called to entrepreneurship, how do you succeed to such an extent that your entrepreneurship is and that success is really just a hallmark of your own personal development to the highest level? And that means failing, lots of failure, fail forward fast, right? So I've seen that in you, and I appreciate your tenacity, January. This has been really special, and I hope that many of you who are listening in will feel free to bring your burden of the call to us, so that we can help nurture it.
Yeah, it's real. The battle's real. But I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're out there listening, don't give up on God's dream for you. It's not worth it. The burden is not worth it. You carry it for life. It's like being tasked with this purpose, and you can't release it. It's a constipation. I'm sorry for that visual, but it's a constipation of a call. That's what it is. It's a constipation of a call. And um, what I see women is that they settle into comfort, and they realize, and they start to convince themselves that's too big. That's not for me. It's impossible. And they spend the rest of their life wondering, what if? Regret.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
live boldly or die. That's my script. That's Mother Cabrini.
Indeed. Let's do it.
Awesome.
Well,
Well, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Chantal, for
pleasure.
um, honoring me and for being my friend. She's seen
Mm.
me. She's seen all the veils. It's all the different layers, and I'm pretty real. I don't think I really am. I had anything. What you see, maybe what you see is what you get, right, Chantal? Or maybe what people still don't really see.
I think we still are pulling back the veil a little bit, because, to be honest, it's one of those things where, unless you've accompanied, we have to, I get to accompany you through so many seasons. So thank you for sharing and letting people in a little bit more, because there is just a real authentic joy. And I can't wait. Honestly, you guys need to hear her crack jokes more. She's hilarious. Oh, play a prank. Look out. She loves pranks.
That is that's the one thing people don't see. Is
No,
the
they don't.
goofy, is the goofy side of me, because I'm so serious I'm a teacher, but that is not actually it's not an accurate depiction of me. But I don't know how to communicate on a camera.
Let's end with this. What's your favorite prank today?
Oh, my favorite prank. The first thing that I can think of is when I put a frog underneath our house, and Ryan was trying to get the frog, and it was a bullfrog. And
Uh,
literally had Ryan 20 minutes trying to get this frog, and then he would go get the net, and I would move the frog a little bit. One of my sons was in on it, so he thought it was moving. But the night before, he found a frog, and I think so. I went to Amazon. I bought a big frog, like overnight, and so he went at it the whole time, and I am literally laughing. Like, I get so much joy in this whole thing. Anyways, oh, and we pranked. I put a snake underneath one of our team
that
members. Oh my gosh,
that was
I
epic.
think he lost his life. It was not a good.
She's
He almost
serious.
called the police. He almost called the police.
Yeah. Well,
Poor Joe.
one thing is true. No matter what you do, you go all the way. And even when it comes to pranks. So look out, ladies and gentlemen. There's no stopping this one.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, Chantal. I'll see you next week. And if you want to be a guest on our show and ask questions and have fun, just email us at
Admin.
admin at thewomanschool.com, and we can have
Wholeness
this
school. The
conversation.
wholeness school.
Okay, admin at thewholenesschool.com. And it'd be great to just have this real, raw conversation together. So have a great week, and we'll see you next week.